Stop. Yes, stop everything. Because there are moments when rushing forward is not progress. It is blindness. You've been searching for answers in the noise. But noise never teaches. It only distracts. Truth does not scream. It whispers. And the whisper you keep ignoring is the very thing that holds your peace. God is not waiting to shout at you. He is waiting for you to become still. Because silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of clarity. You think the next success will heal you. You think the next relationship will complete you. You think the next day will finally bring rest. But listen, what you are chasing is already speaking to you now. The reason you feel restless is not because life is against you. It is because you have been too busy to hear the one who is for you. Every distraction steals more than time. It steals your soul's awareness. And awareness is where God meets you. He does not speak in chaos. He speaks in calm. He does not arrive tomorrow. He is present now. So hear this carefully. This moment, this very breath, is sacred. Do not postpone listening. Do not wait for a perfect season. Do not say, when life settles, then I will pay attention. Because life will never settle on its own. But your heart can. God is not calling you to hear more information. He is calling you to hear transformation. Not to add weight to your mind, but to lift the burden from your soul. The question is not, is God speaking? The question is, are you listening? Stop everything, because eternity may be hidden in this very moment. And if you hear it, your life will never be the same again. We live as if speed is salvation. We wake up, rush, check the clock, and run after the next task. We measure our value by how much we do, not by how deeply we live. But have you noticed, the faster you go, the less you see. The more you chase, the more life escapes you. A flower does not bloom because it hurried. It blooms because it paused in the rhythm of nature. And you were never designed to live as a machine. You have been taught that pausing is weakness. That stopping is failure. That slowing down means you are falling behind. But what if the opposite is true? What if your greatest strength lies in your ability to stop? What if wisdom begins not when you move, but when you are still enough to see? We say life is short, yet we waste it in hurry. We call time precious, yet we spend it as if it costs nothing. The pause of life is not laziness, it is clarity. It is the moment when you step outside the blur and finally notice what has been in front of you all along. Think of the most meaningful conversations you've had. They were never rushed. They happened when you stopped long enough to listen. Think of the most profound lessons you've learned. They came not in the rush of noise, but in the quiet of reflection. We are addicted to movement, but movement without meaning is emptiness, and emptiness wears the mask of business. The pause of life is not about doing nothing. It is about doing what matters with awareness. Because what you refuse to pause for, you eventually lose. Pause, and you will hear the laughter you've been too busy to enjoy. Pause, and you will see the tears in someone's eyes that needed your presence. Pause, and you will notice that your own soul has been crying out for rest. Life is not a race to the finish line. It is a gift to be unwrapped slowly. But when you live in constant hurry, you tear through the wrapping and miss the treasure inside. The world tells you, do more, achieve more, prove more. But the deeper truth whispers, be still, know, and live with depth. You cannot taste water if you drink it in haste. You cannot hear music if you rush through the song. You cannot meet God if you never stop long enough to notice He is here. The pause of life is not about escaping responsibility. It is about recovering your humanity. Because in the pause, you remember that you are not defined by deadlines, but by the eternal worth breathed into you. Consider this: every moment you pause, you recover sight. Every pause teaches you to discern between what is urgent and what is truly important. Urgency will scream at you daily, but importance whispers, and you can only hear the whisper if you dare to pause. You are not meant to run endlessly. Even the heart rests between beats. Even the earth pauses between seasons. Even the night pauses the day. Why then do you fear the pause? Because the pause confronts you with truth. the truth of who you are without your work, the truth of what you are avoiding, the truth of what really matters. And here is the irony. The pause you resist most is the one that could heal you most. The pause is not the end of progress. It is the beginning of wisdom. Because when you stop long enough to see clearly, you stop confusing movement with meaning. The pause of life is the place where direction returns. It is the ground where you discover that you are not lost. You are only running too fast to see the way. So do not fear to stop. Do not fear to breathe. Do not fear the stillness, for in the stillness you are not wasting life. You are finally finding it. When you finally pause, you begin to notice something, a sound that was always there, but drowned out by the noise. It is not loud, it is not demanding, it is not forceful. It is quiet, yet it carries more weight than 1,000 shouts. It is the inner voice. The voice you keep silencing with distractions. The voice you keep burying under schedules. You call it conscience. You call it intuition. You call it instinct, but at its core, it is the whisper of God reminding you who you are. This voice does not flatter. It does not lie. It does not play games with you. It tells you what you need, not what you want. And that is why so many run from it, because it is easier to scroll endlessly than to face the truth that rises within silence. You hear it when the room goes quiet. You hear it when the laughter fades. You hear it when you wake in the night and realize that all your business still hasn't filled the emptiness inside. The inner voice does not argue. It simply waits. It is patient. It is persistent. It is the still reminder that you are more than what you do. It tells you, this path is wrong. It tells you, you are hurting yourself. It tells you, there is more to life than this endless chase. And every time you ignore it, you lose a piece of clarity. You lose a piece of peace. The world will teach you to listen to every other voice. The advertisements telling you what to buy. The culture telling you what to chase. The people telling you who to become. But the one voice that truly knows you, you push aside. Because it doesn't shout, it doesn't fight. It simply speaks and waits for you to care. Do you wonder why anxiety grows louder? Do you wonder why emptiness feels heavier? It is because the voice of truth has been ignored too long, and ignored truth always echoes as restlessness. This voice is not meant to condemn you. It is meant to guide you. It is not meant to paralyze you with guilt. It is meant to awaken you with honesty. It whispers when you are about to cross a line. It whispers when you are about to harm yourself with choices you'll regret. It whispers when you are settling for less than what you were made for. And here lies the secret. The inner voice is not hidden from you. It is hidden by you, buried under excuses, buried under denial, buried under the belief that you are too busy to stop and listen. But when you listen, everything begins to change. Suddenly, decisions become clearer. Suddenly, peace becomes closer. Suddenly, the chaos around you does not control the calm within you. You realize that wisdom was not far away. It was always inside, waiting for space to be heard. The pause of life opens the door. The inner voice steps through. And when it speaks, you finally understand why silence matters. Because without silence, you hear everything except the truth. But within silence, you hear the one thing that matters most. Do not think you are too lost to hear it. Do not think you are too broken to receive it. Do not think you are too far gone to return to it. The inner voice is not fragile. It survives your mistakes, survives your failures. It survives your years of ignoring it. And still, it waits for you. What you call regret is often the echo of that voice. What you call emptiness is often the absence of listening. What you call longing is often the reminder that you were made for more. The inner voice is not against you. It is for you. It does not come to take away your joy. It comes to protect your joy from being stolen. So when the noise grows louder, do not raise your volume. Lower your pace. Listen, because the inner voice does not compete. It speaks once, and once is enough if you have the courage to hear. When the inner voice begins to speak, you realize something powerful. Silence is not empty. It is heavy. Heavy with truth. Heavy with clarity. Heavy with the reality you tried to escape in noise, we run from silence because it confronts us. It strips away the illusions. It leaves no hiding place. It shows you what you truly feel, not what you pretend to feel. Silence is uncomfortable at first, because it reveals the very things you've been burying. The disappointments you ignored, the wounds you disguised, the questions you never dared to ask. And that is why silence feels weighty, because it carries what your soul has carried for years. Not to crush you, but to free you. Noise numbs you, but silence heals you. Noise distracts you, but silence teaches you. The weight of silence is not meant to break you. It is meant to break what is false inside you, to strip away what is shallow, to expose what is real. Think about it. The greatest realizations in life rarely come in noise. They come when everything grows still, when the noise of the world finally quiets and the voice of truth grows louder. In silence, you hear your fears, but you also hear your faith. In silence, you face your emptiness, but you also discover your fullness. The silence between words often says more than the words themselves. The silence in a room reveals whether hearts are at peace or whether they are restless. The silence of the night holds questions the day tries to cover. This is why silence carries weight, because it speaks without speaking, and its voice cannot be ignored forever. When you sit in silence, you begin to realize all the things you thought were urgent were not essential, and all the things you kept postponing, they were the very things that gave meaning. Silence reminds you of what matters. It reminds you that relationships are fragile, that time is fleeting, that life is more than the roles you play. It reminds you that God does not always come in fire or storm, but often in the still small whisper that you only hear when everything else grows quiet. The weight of silence presses down, not to suffocate you, but to anchor you, because without silence you drift endlessly, but with silence you find your ground again. Many fear silence because it feels lonely, but silence is not loneliness. It is intimacy with yourself. It is intimacy with God. It is intimacy with truth. Loneliness is the absence of people. Silence is the presence of depth. When you allow silence to settle, you discover strength you never knew you had, because it takes courage to face yourself. And it takes even greater courage to accept what you see. But once you accept it, you are no longer running. You are no longer hiding. You are no longer pretending. You are free. The world will tell you to fill every silence with words, every pause with action, every moment with noise. But wisdom tells you the deepest growth happens when you dare to let silence remain. The weight of silence is the weight of reality. It reminds you that you are fragile, but it also reminds you that you are more resilient than you think. It reminds you of your mistakes, but it also reminds you of your second chances. It reminds you of your limitations, but it also reminds you of the limitless presence of the one who sustains you. So do not fear the weight of silence. Carry it. Sit with it. Learn from it. Because silence will do what noise never could. It will restore your soul. It will sharpen your vision. It will teach you to hear the voice that truly matters. And once you learn to live with silence, you are no longer controlled by noise. You are no longer enslaved by hurry. You are no longer afraid of truth. You are finally alive. When you finally sit with silence, you begin to see clearly. And clarity always calls you to awareness. Awareness is not something new entering your life. It is something that was always present, but you were too distracted to notice. You walked past blessings and called them ordinary. You walked past warnings and called them small. You walked past truth and called it irrelevant. Not because they were hidden, but because you were not awake enough to see. Awareness is the turning of the eyes inward. It is the realization that life was speaking all along, and you were too busy to listen. The call to awareness is not a whisper you can ignore forever. It is life's way of shaking you gently before it shakes you hard. It is God's way of saying, pay attention, for what you are overlooking may be the very thing you need. Think about how often you miss the obvious. The signs your body gives before it breaks. The signs your relationships give before they collapse. The signs your heart gives before it turns cold. None of them come without warning. They come with subtle reminders, soft nudges, gentle alerts. But if you are blind to them, the small things you ignore become the great burdens you carry. Awareness is the ability to see before the damage is done, to hear before the silence turns painful, to act before it is too late. But awareness is not automatic. It is a discipline, a habit of watching closely, listening deeply, noticing fully. The weight of silence teaches you to stop, and in stopping, you begin to see. See the people you took for granted. See the gifts you never thanked God for. See the opportunities you dismissed as too small. Awareness is the opposite of sleepwalking through life. It is living with eyes wide open. It is recognizing that each moment carries meaning, that even the mundane is sacred. Without awareness, you are alive, but not truly living, breathing, but not awake. Awareness is what separates existence from purpose. It takes the ordinary and reveals the extraordinary within it. A meal is not just food, it is nourishment. A conversation is not just words, it is connection. A moment of stillness is not just pause, it is healing. But when you are unaware, you pass by miracles and call them accidents. You pass by love and call it coincidence. You pass by truth and call it nothing. The call to awareness is urgent because every day you live unaware is a day lost. Not lost in years, but lost in depth. What you do not notice, you cannot nurture. What you do not recognize, you cannot protect. What you do not acknowledge, you eventually lose. Awareness saves you from regret. It teaches you to value before you lose, to cherish before it is gone, to listen before the silence grows permanent. It is not about adding more to your life. It is about finally seeing what has always been there. The smile of someone who loves you, the strength hidden in your own resilience, the lessons wrapped inside your pain, the grace of simply being alive. Awareness opens your eyes not just to beauty, but also to danger. It shows you where your choices are leading. It reveals the path your habits are carving. It warns you when you are walking toward a cliff. This is why the call to awareness is not gentle background noise. It is urgent. It is demanding, because blindness is costly. But here is the hope. The moment you choose awareness, life shifts. The same world looks different. The same problems look solvable. The same relationships look priceless. Awareness does not change your circumstances immediately. It changes you. And once you change, everything around you begins to take on new meaning. So hear the call. Do not ignore the subtle warnings. Do not postpone the quiet reminders. Do not wait until regret shouts what awareness once whispered. Awareness is the gift silence brings. It is the doorway to wisdom. It is the foundation of living deeply. And without it, you may gain the world but miss your own life. Awareness opens your eyes. But what good is sight if you do not act? What good is clarity if you still wait for tomorrow? The greatest lie you have believed is that you have time. Time to forgive. Time to change. Time to pursue what matters. But tomorrow is not promised. Only now is. We live as though life is an endless rehearsal. As though today is just practice for the real performance. But the truth is, this moment is the stage. This moment is the performance. This moment is the only one guaranteed. Awareness without urgency becomes regret. You see clearly, but you still delay. You know what matters, but you still postpone. And every postponement is a theft of your own life. You say, I'll slow down when I retire. You say, I'll heal when I have more time. You say, I love more when life gets easier. But life does not wait for your schedule. It keeps moving, with or without your permission. The urgency of now is not about panic. It is about presence. It is not about rushing. It is about refusing to delay what matters most. Think of how often people wait. Wait to express gratitude until it is too late. Wait to reconcile until the grave takes away the chance. Wait to live until their body no longer allows it. And in the end, they do not regret the things they did. They regret the things they kept postponing. Now is the only doorway into eternity. Now is the only moment where change begins. Now is the only space where God can meet you. The past is memory. The future is uncertainty. But now is holy ground. You cannot breathe yesterday's air. You cannot live tomorrow's breath. You only have the inhale and exhale of this moment, and yet, how often do you trade it away? You replay the past as though you can rewrite it. You worry about the future as though you can control it. And in doing so, you sacrifice the only thing real, now. Awareness without urgency is like a lamp without oil. It shines for a moment, then dies in darkness. But when urgency fuels awareness, your life becomes a flame that cannot be ignored. Now is the time to forgive, because bitterness only grows heavier tomorrow. Now is the time to love, because the heart you cherish may not be here forever. Now is the time to act, because opportunities vanish faster than you realize. Do not wait for the perfect season. There is no perfect season. Every season has obstacles. Every season has excuses. Every season has reasons to delay. But urgency silences excuses. It says, even if the conditions are not ideal, I will not waste this chance. You do not need the whole path revealed. You only need to take the first step. Now, God does not call you to prepare endlessly for tomorrow. He calls you to be faithful today, because faith is not proven in some distant future. It is proven in the choices of this very hour. Think of it. How many lives are shaped not by years of waiting, but by one decisive moment of courage? How many stories turn not in decades, but in seconds of action? The urgency of now is not reckless. It is wise, because it recognizes that delay is the greatest enemy of destiny. Every later becomes never if you repeat it enough. Every tomorrow becomes too late if you keep trusting it. But every no becomes a seed planted in eternity. The weight of silence taught you to stop. The call to awareness taught you to see. But the urgency of now teaches you to move, because vision without action is nothing more than illusion. Do not ask, what if I fail? Ask instead, what if I never try? Do not ask, what if I am not ready? Ask instead, what if readiness comes only when I begin? Now is heavy with possibility. Now is filled with the power of choice. Now is where change begins and where life is truly lived. So do not wait for a better tomorrow. Create it now. Urgency means nothing if the heart stays unmoved. You can see the truth. You can know the truth. You can even feel the weight of now. But unless your heart responds, nothing changes. Knowledge fills the mind, but only response transforms the life. Information is everywhere, yet transformation is rare, because transformation begins not in the head, but in the heart. The heart is not weak. It is the seat of your deepest decisions. It is where desire lives. It is where courage rises. It is where surrender begins. You can delay with your mind, but your heart knows the urgency. It knows the cost of silence. It knows the cost of waiting too long. The heart whispers, do it now. The mind answers, maybe later. And every time the mind wins, the soul grows heavier. The response of the heart is not about emotions alone. It is about direction. The heart decides where you will go, long before your feet take a step. Think of those moments when your life shifted. It was not because of more facts. It was because your heart finally said, enough is enough. I cannot stay here anymore. I must move forward. The urgency of now demands a response. And that response must come from the heart, because the heart carries the courage the mind doubts. The heart carries the faith the logic resists. The heart carries the love the world tries to bury. But the heart must be honest. For too long you've hardened it, covered it with layers of fear, guarded it with excuses, silenced it with business. Yet no wall is strong enough to silence the truth forever. The heart breaks through, sometimes in joy, sometimes in sorrow, but always in truth. When the heart responds, forgiveness becomes possible. Healing becomes real. Change becomes lasting. You may know you should forgive, but only the heart can release the bitterness. You may know you should trust, but only the heart can surrender the fear. You may know you should act, but only the heart can ignite the courage. This is why the response of the heart is the final step. It is where knowledge becomes wisdom, where awareness becomes transformation, where urgency becomes action. The heart does not respond halfway. It does not negotiate. It does not delay. When the heart says yes, it says yes with all it has. And that yes changes everything. The heart is not impressed by theories. It is moved by conviction. The heart is not convinced by endless debate. It is pierced by authenticity. That is why truth speaks deepest not when argued, but when experienced, not when explained, but when felt. Your heart knows when something is real. It knows when God is near. It knows when this moment is sacred. And when it responds, heaven itself leans closer. Do not think small responses go unnoticed. A small yes can change a life. A single step can begin a journey. A quiet surrender can alter eternity. The heart's response does not need to be dramatic. It only needs to be real. Because a genuine response, no matter how small, carries eternal weight. The urgency of now asks you to act today. The heart asks you to act with truth. Together they awaken transformation. What is your heart saying now? Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, perhaps it is calling you to forgive. Perhaps it is calling you to begin again. Perhaps it is calling you to trust, to believe, to surrender, to live fully awake. Do not silence it this time. Do not explain it away. Do not bury it under excuses. Because the heart that refuses to respond grows colder with every delay. But the heart that says yes becomes alive with every choice. The pause taught you to stop. The inner voice taught you to listen. The silence taught you to feel. The awareness taught you to see. The urgency taught you to act. But only the heart's response will carry you forward. And once the heart responds, there is no turning back. Because you are no longer living halfway. You are fully alive.